welcome to our next episode of BROC Talk Bennington. BROC Community Action has been offering hope, opportunity, and a path forward out of crisis or poverty to Bennington and Rutland County residents for 53 years. On this month's show, I'll be learning more about United Counseling Services IPLAN program, and I'm pleased to welcome Joanna Szymanski, who is United Counseling Services IPLAN Program Manager, as well as BROC Community Action Zone Director of Community Services, Elizabeth Eddy, and IPLAN Program Specialist, Erin Schulman. Ladies, thank you for joining me today, and welcome to BROC Talk Bennington.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very excited to have this opportunity to be down here and sharing all the different partnerships and programs that we have going on. And one of them is a very important one to us, is the United Counseling Services IPLAN program. So right off the bat, Joe, I'm going to put you, what does IPLAN stand for?
IPLAN stands for Individuals Preparing for Life, Action, and Need.
And I think that's an awesome acronym. I love that. So why don't you just go into a little bit about what that program looks like?
Sure. So I actually have written down one of the program descriptions, which is on the UCS website as well. So if anyone wants to review that later, they can do so. So IPLAN is a reentry program designed to meet the needs of individuals leaving incarceration and integrating back into the community, or individuals who are already involved with the Department of Corrections, DOC, and through probation and parole are referred if they are high risk of reoffending. Also, just want to add that the program offers intensive services for those high-risk individuals in the form of either weekly individual treatment, one-on-one sessions, case management, which is one-on-one, and these sessions can happen multiple times a week. They don't just have to be once a week. There's also an intensive outpatient program, which is a minimum of 9 hours of substance abuse counseling, 3 days a week for 3 hours at a time. And there's also the transitional housing piece, which is really important to us. And we the transitional housing portion of the IPLAN program is provided by BROC, which we are very grateful for, to have that communication and that relationship with them. And we contract them for those services.
And so the services you mentioned before, the housing, are all provided in-house at UCS?
At UCS or at the Department of Corrections.
Oh, okay.
We also have a office in there, and the IOP, the Intensive Outpatient Service Program, is held at Department of Corrections.
And I know, Elizabeth, we took this on just a few years ago as a partnership in terms of doing the housing piece, the transitional housing piece. You want to talk a little bit about how we got involved?
Yes. BROC, as a community action agency, has provided general housing services for a long time, since its inception, and we, as Joe mentioned, work alongside United Counseling Services to help with the housing portion, and that means making sure that those emerging from correctional institutions have a place to live when they come out. And the whole purpose, of course, is that people become successful in the community.
Right.
It's a lot of people lack the supports and direction they need to remain successful, and we all know that recidivism is a big risk for people coming out, and so having stable housing alongside supports is the two-step approach to improve those odds, and it does work. So what BROC does, and what Erin specifically does, is that finding the apartments, maintaining the relationship with landlords, making sure the apartment is rented when we have a referral, and the referrals are all coming from the Department of Corrections. We don't accept referrals ourselves for this, and we work with our great partners at the local probation and parole office, and they select candidates that have certain conditions which are amenable to what we can offer. And these are people who are from Bennington. This is a program to again, foster success from people who have left the community because of these charges, and they're coming back. So they have stable housing, and then the case manager works on other, teaches them how to become good tenants, for example, and works with them on budgeting and provides complementary services to the clinical and other supports that UCS is offering. And Erin can mention some of the services and the caseload she's working with now.
Yeah, a lot of what we do, we're housing individuals that come out of incarceration, and we usually give them, anywhere from 3 months to be able to get them into housing, get them set up with the other services, but we're also helping them out with finding job placement because we are an employment-based.
I was going to ask that too, if that was going to be all part and parcel of it.
Yes, we are an employment-based program, so
Okay.
that's a big part of
Okay.
when they come out. They have to understand that even though we're setting them up with the housing, we're getting
Right.
them started, but they in turn have to also be willing to look for work,
Okay.
and we help them with that. They can either do it on themselves, but we also will accompany them if they would like to Department of Labor. If they're having a hard time, some people have, they're not comfortable with either using the computers,
Right.
or because we have some older adults as well that they're used to doing paper applications
Right.
or things like that.
Big changes in the world,
Yes,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
it's not enough. They're coming out and they're everything is upside down for
Right.
them, and they're feeling overwhelmed. So we're there as just another support to be able to help them with that, and to also make sure if they need help with, we also supply them with things for the apartment. We don't just put them in there without
Oh, that's great.
having those need, cleaning supplies, other odds and ends that they need, health, hygiene items,
Personal care.
personal care that we can help them out with. And once we make sure that they get a job, then we will also go over budgeting with them as well to help, with money management, to get them going. And once they have been in a job and they're working, and we can see that they're bringing in an income, and we're making sure that they're stable enough, then they will eventually graduate the program.
Okay.
We work with them throughout.
But it's not just that initial 3 months. It can
Correct.
go beyond that.
Correct.
Because you said that it was, they're required a certain number of hours in even one piece of the services you offer.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
So typically they can stay up to 3 months with the, and we collaborate and kind of have team meetings with the clients if necessary, and trying to support them as much as possible in the reentry program, or as they reenter to the community, and they can, if they're trying, they're actively seeking, because there are a lot of barriers
Of course there
to
would be.
employment with this
Right.
population. So, it's understandable that sometimes it might take longer. And, if they're actively really trying, and we see that, and they're, giving evidence of that, then we can we can keep them in the BROC program for longer.
Yes.
And most of them do become employed.
Yeah,
And as Joe said, people, you can't just find an apartment without a sustainable income. No one's
Right.
going to rent to
I
you.
guess
If you
that's,
get
I
out
wrote
of
that down
jail
because I was thinking,
and you,
how do they even get started?
you can't look for a job
Yeah.
usually if you don't have even an address or a,
Right.
Right.
So we're providing the housing up front. It's a housing
Yes.
first model of
Oh,
sorts.
okay. So
and
that's
so
where I was
people
confused. Okay.
have somewhere to live, and then that
Yeah.
assist them with the job hunting. And as Erin said, our clients are expected to work, and they do. And the definition of graduating is that they've become sustainable.
Right.
Right.
Ideally, they retain the apartment that they originally were placed in and are paying for it themselves.
Okay.
And they
All right.
continue often in the job that they got and in the apartment that they were occupying, and for as long as they want. And they have graduated because they have reintegrated successfully. It doesn't mean they're not
Yeah.
still availing themselves of, mental health supports, but
Correct.
they have the job and
They'll
the housing.
still continue in the
and-
IPLAN program even if they graduate BROC.
Yes.
So they'll still have access, the same clinicians, until they can, or until they graduate
Right,
the IPLAN program.
right, yes.
Another graduation.
Right.
We also have a case manager that helps with things such as getting birth certificates and IDs and those barriers to the employment, and Erin helps with the search, and so there's a lot of collaboration that happens between
that's
our mutual
also-
clients.
Right, like Joe was saying, that's also another. It can go longer with the program. Where the 3 months comes in also is they have to consistently pay for them to graduate the program. They have to consistently pay for 3 months.
Show that they can do it.
Correct.
Okay.
And then once we see that they can maintain that and that they can maintain a relationship with a landlord and be able to make that, then we review it with everybody, make sure that yes, this person is able to sustain themselves on their income and are able to manage with what they have. Then we go through and we write up give them a graduation letter to hand to them and tell them that they're then done with our program, and obviously they're still continuing with their other services, but
Which I think is really important. You know, just getting an apartment and a job certainly
have
doesn't
to
mean
have-
that it's over. You know,
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
they
was
have
Just
to
the beginning.
It-
And
yeah,
it
really.
reduces the risk. I mean, the more stress and,
Yeah, I was
you
gonna
know,
say,
the more
it has to
overwhelmed someone
reduce
is when they
that
come
level
out,
anyway. Yeah.
I mean, they might be more likely to relapse with, whatever they're, and the barriers can overcome
Right.
them. So having that level, I mean, this is an intensive program
Yeah.
for folks. And it's cost effective, because paying someone's rent even for a few months until they start paying on their own, compared to the cost of incarcerating
Right.
people, it's a tremendous savings. And it's investing in people to rejoin communities, because frankly, people are going to be rejoining our communities all across the state. People do get out. That's not something we control, whether
Right.
someone agrees with that or not,
Right.
but people do come back, and this way they can come back and have the best chance possible to become productive citizens.
So when DOC does a referral, is it based on any criteria they look at when the person is about to be released, or do they refer pretty much anyone that's coming, say, back to Bennington? Do any of you know if there's a checklist they say, chances are
I think
good
they
that they're
review
going
the pool
to?
of people, and it depends upon the conditions.
Oh, okay.
I
Their
wouldn't.
ORAS score.
Yeah, they have
a
certain
scales.
scores and of risk assessment.
I guess
and
that's what I was.
I couldn't
by a
speak for
checklist,
their
Yeah.
saying
for
it the
them,
wrong way,
but
though.
they do want to have some leverage
Yeah,
over
okay.
the people in the community that, if possible. I mean, the premise
some
is that they
accountability.
wouldn't
Yeah.
be brought back, but they could be, and that is more protective of,
Okay.
the housing, as far as there is, as a last resort, someone could, I mean, and some people fail. Part of, making your way and overcoming a lot of these issues is relapse. So we have people who have,
It's not
part of
fallen
it.
out of
not
the
just
program
people in
and
incarceration, though,
come
right?
back. Yes,
Right.
it's not just
Other
people
people
with,
relapse.
yeah.
you
So
know? So
we have taken people more than once, and
Yep.
also we serve people of different ages. A lot of times people have a picture of those they think come out, and Erin can talk about that, but it's really a variety. What have you seen
Yeah, what
in
kind
the
of
last
age
year?
ranges are you seeing?
Gosh, let's see. I've had age ranges. I think the youngest I have seen is 23,
Okay.
all the way up to I had someone last year here was about 65. I
Wow.
want to say. So I mean, it just gives you. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's all and that's
Yeah,
and
so you
that's
can't
female
say
and male.
it's just that 18
Yeah.
to 24
Right.
It's not just
age,
young men either.
Right,
In fact,
right.
we've had
There's-
more women,
we've
I
had
think,
quite
this
a
year,
few.
haven't
Yes,
we?
we've had quite a few
So-
females as well.
It's not just young
That-
men, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So it's. I mean.
Well, then that brings up another thought in my head with if you're talking about women, are they, do you find that some of them are single moms and they're trying to work on getting kids back and things like that too?
A lot of that, yes, it's the single
Wow.
moms
That must be the most
that are
difficult thing.
trying,
Yeah.
and that's overwhelming for them because not only they're trying to worry about getting their kids
The
back
job
in their
and the-
lives,
yeah,
the job, so
yeah.
it's just another
Yeah.
added you know, not to say that there's also, you know, the young men that come out too that are,
They-
you know, are also trying to, you know, get back on track and
Yeah,
be able
absolutely.
to see their kids and
Their
so
parents too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yeah. It's hard. It is very, and I always tell them too when they get in that program. You know, I always make them understand. Like I know it's extremely overwhelming, and I always try to, you know, put them at ease and say whatever, you know. And I always ask them anything that you need, any thing that I can be helpful with, or to. Because we also do a food shelf program as
Yeah,
well. I always
yeah.
tell them to call me if they need. I can bring them those items.
Well,
So
that's
it's-
another beauty of the BROC Community Action, you know, family of programs that we have, is we
Yep.
can provide other services
Right.
right in-house.
So it-
You know,
yeah,
whether
it-
it's for their electric or, well,
Three
what
Squares
they have, I don't
Vermont
know, electric in the
benefits.
apartments that we have them in, but.
But
Yep.
if they graduate and retain their own
and
leases,
they
they
can-
might
yes,
need
that's
fuel
true.
and electric,
Yeah.
and so you know it's a comprehensive service agency. So,
Right.
like UCS, there's ongoing supports, not just when they're within this particular. This is a launching program.
Right.
So
Yeah.
even though when they're done with my program, it's easy
Mm-hmm.
to ease them into another program within BROC. It's just not within my program.
Right, right. And that's, you know, being in-house, again, that's, you know, walk them down the hall and they
Yep.
can make an appointment with the next person. And
Mm-hmm.
and I like that about what we do, is that it is holistic and
Mm-hmm.
you're not just, sometimes people think they're there for one thing,
Right.
but through conversation you find out that there's so much more that they need.
There really
and,
is.
and that we can offer. And that's, sounds like the same thing with the bigger IPLAN program, Joe, is that it's not just the housing referrals, you're doing like the counseling and the budget.
Yeah,
I mean, it
there's-
sounds like it's amazing.
Yeah, and the clients are very complex.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it's wonderful that it's grant funded, because we could see them. They can come in for an individual service and a case management service, and see the doctors if that's part of their, you know,
Wow.
and do groups, you know, because it's grant funded. You know, it kind of allows them to, you know, get more services than what health insurance companies
Right.
will cover
Right.
typically. But yeah, we also have a garden project for them,
Oh, wow.
and
nice.
you know, other kind of things that, you know.
Well, they can get ownership. You know, they can
Yeah,
buy, they
yeah.
buy into something that's theirs.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that's really
So
neat.
we did a bike voucher, or we do some fun things.
Yeah.
We do, yes,
it's
actually,
not-
we do
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
especially with, because that's the other thing, transportation is a big issue.
Yes, yeah.
I know within Bennington, especially for employment. So we do
Right.
we do bus passes for them as well, bike vouchers, so that they're able to.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
And we can also, again, this is where we can work with them if they are able to drive or have their license. We can also, you know, some of them are not able to pay off maybe the fees that they have, and
Right,
then we can also refer them to other programs that can help them with that. So there's all kinds of different aspects and stuff that we can help them with.
And I guess the message that I get out of all this is it's a very hopeful program.
Yeah.
You know, I like that I'm hearing the hope that's coming
Yes.
through from
Yes.
you, especially here and Joe. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, you know, they did something to put them where they are, but there is so much hope and
Yes.
opportunity that we can provide and get them to be members of the society again, and productive members with
Yes.
the job and the,
Yep.
you know, they pay their taxes and they're doing
Yep.
all the right things. And I've learned much more about the program than I even had known myself. So all the little nuances that only the people that are directly involved in this
Yeah.
would know. And I think that transportation would be one of the largest issues.
That's also,
you know,
Especially for jobs.
yeah.
Yes.
Right. Not just
yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
to make our appointments, you know, and see their
Try to get here, there,
POs,
and there.
and
Yeah.
you know, just
Yeah.
there's a
Parole officers. Yeah.
pro
Yes.
officers. Yeah, I think.
So we don't speak in acronyms.
Yes, and
Yeah, there's so many of them.
That's why I
Yeah.
started with IPLAN, and I said,
Yes.
please tell us what
Yes.
that is. But it, you know, the best part for me is sounds like you can you're not rushing people through it either. You know, it sounds like you're doing it at their pace.
Yep.
The 3 months, I understand, is kind of the goal for the housing.
Right.
But obviously, if someone's not ready at 3 months, we're probably not going to say, "Oh, sorry, you got to leave."
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
there have been instances where people have just needed that more, or needed more
one
time,
more
or
month,
needed more,
you know?
and we've been able to work with that, because
Yeah.
the last thing we want to say is, "Oh, sorry, that's it."
Right,
or,
exactly.
and especially when you know that they've been trying.
Right.
So it's definitely, I mean, it's not really all that cut and dry or black and white.
Right.
There's gray areas in there too.
Which is the reason I brought that up, is because that would make it seem like we're not serving hundreds of people in a year. It's
No.
it's not hundreds of people like some of our programs. Certainly not like our food shelf numbers or anything like that. But the numbers we are serving are very important numbers.
Yes.
The numbers of families that are being reunited or reunified, and it just
It breaks a cycle too.
and that would be a
People
very
have so
important
much to
thing.
do when they're out. They do have meetings to go to, and
Yeah.
they have a lot of, like you said, appointments with their parole officers, and that can take hours if you have to walk.
Right.
You know, we do get calls at both of our offices in Rutland and in Bennington asking for these types of program, because people, they have a very hard time finding housing and jobs and doing everything if they go out without that transitional. I mean, this is a transitional housing program,
Right.
and it really helps with that transition. That's why it's called that. So it's a good model. And, you know, it is a smaller caseload. It's like, you know, we're usually going through about 20 people, 19 or so a year, and it's, you know, can be smaller than that, but it makes a very big difference, because, as I said, the cost of incarcerating these people for the
Right.
same time is always huge, and it doesn't, you know, this is where, you know, they need to be, and, you know, and they are carefully selected. You know, this, not everyone goes
Right.
through this, but
Right.
Department of Corrections is careful about that.
And they are, most of the time I wanted to say is that they do show gratitude, and they do appreciate the services, you know.
Yes, they do.
They come and talk about, you know, how they appreciate Erin got them, you know, toilet paper or something, and, you know, they're like, they're very grateful.
Well, something
too.
you and
It's-
I would take for granted,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
is a big deal to some folks. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, you know. If that's what their need was at the time, thank you for going to get them toilet paper.
Or making
you know?
coffee when they want
Yeah,
to have
you
it.
know,
You know,
I
having
mean,
your own
Right.
place
Right,
with some
right,
amenities. I mean, these apartments are not lavish, but it's
Right.
better than where they were coming from.
Right,
And it, you
right.
know, ideally they like being there. We want these folks to be happy and want to stay. And if you want to stay and, you know, want to work toward maybe a reunification with family members and especially children, then it's motivating, and
Right.
they'll work harder.
So then with, do you have any, Erin, that, as you were talking about younger, like the 20-year-olds, that have ever pursued like education as an option too, or do they have to work? Is it
I actually,
only work?
yeah, it's. I'm glad you brought that up, because they also do have education that they can do. I had a couple of people that were taking classes at CCV and working. So that's
I did
that's
it. I know
also,
how that is, but
yeah,
you can do it.
So that's also
Okay,
another
good.
aspect that I.
Because that boosts your self-esteem too.
Yeah,
If you know you
absolutely.
can start getting an education
Right.
toward a degree in whatever,
Right.
You know, a lot of people end up in human services because of their
yep.
circumstances, but we need those people in our communities, believe me. But so I wondered about that with
Yes.
not even just doesn't have to be younger either. It could be some of the older folks have said,
Right, or
geez, I
working
need,
towards-
you know, I would like to be more educated in
Right.
something.
Right. There's also a big CDL program that a lot
Okay.
of people will go for.
Okay.
Of course, again, you know, and that's also in line with working to get their license
Right,
as well.
right.
So, and then
Yes,
they can
you'd have
do
to
the.
have that. Yes.
Yeah.
But you know that can make some money. I mean, they can earn a good living doing that.
With that, with the driving with the CDLs, you can make
Yeah.
some very good money.
So if they can accomplish that would be a huge thing in their life, you know, and
Yep.
not have to worry about some of the other, as long as they stay on track with all the supports,
Right.
too. I mean, it's not like, oh, I've got this great job now, done with you. You
Right.
know, it can't be that kind
Yeah.
of system.
Yeah, and it's hard because, you know, depending on what time their job is, or, you know, some of them third shift, you know, and then when do
yeah.
they sleep, and,
Yeah.
you know, so every client is very unique in their journeys towards wellness, I guess, you know,
Yeah,
ultimately.
it is. It's wellness for themselves, for
Yeah.
their families, for the community. It really makes a big difference to more people than they realize, I think, sometimes.
And we're going into the home too. Erin, I mean, we also have a directly funded grant through Department of Corrections, and it's doing most of the same things. It's not a formal agreement with United Counseling Service, so those folks also work with UCS. But this intensive model means Erin goes into the homes to check on things like
Oh, good.
housekeeping, and if, you know, if there's uninvited guests, and just it's keeping up with them. And a lot of programs you can't do that just because of the
Right.
volume. So, you know, tell them what you do when you go on a visit.
Yep, I usually, it's usually about a once a week visit, and I will just go in and I'll just make sure to see, first of all, how they've been doing, how they're, you know, if they've been able to do any kind of work search, have they been able to keep up with their appointments, are they struggling in any areas. Then also at the same time, I'm making sure that the apartment is, you know, up to, that it's not, you know, messy, or that it's, you know, just making sure that they're being a good tenant, taking care of everything. I also am in contact with the landlord a lot to make sure, you know, for any maybe tenant issues, if there's been any, you know, anything going on. So I'm also, again, making sure that they're also keeping up with rules through DLC.
Right,
Like I said,
right.
with making sure that if they don't have anybody in the apartment that's not supposed to be in there, and following the guidelines of that. So I don't go in to search or do anything like
Right,
that, but
right.
I'm just
More eyes and ears, just to
correct. Yeah.
just to keep. And you can often tell if someone is not doing well. It's like maybe by
Right.
the appearance of the household, or, you know. And it's so going in there makes a big difference, and it's another layer of scrutiny.
Yeah, you
for how
can you always
people are
get kind of
doing.
a feeling, because
Yeah,
you usually
right.
know when you start to get to know that client too. It's like, well, this is kind of, there's something off, and you know. And
But
then
I
you-
would think that adds to their accountability,
Exactly.
to making sure they're going to succeed.
right.
You know,
Because
so
you
you're not
don't-
doing it to
yeah.
be mean. You're doing it to help
Right.
them.
Even to
and I
see if
would
they
like
have
to think
food,
most of
you
them
know.
think that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Cooking is one of the things that some people don't do a lot of. It's
Right.
like they have,
Yep.
you know, these are apartments
Yeah.
with cooking facilities. Are they doing that? It's like
Right.
that's something that's going to improve their health, and
Right.
maybe will be hopefully a source of pleasure for them to, you know. So going
That's
in is
awesome. I mean, this has
it's
been
supportive. It's
This has been an amazingly great lesson for me personally. So I think that we're doing some really great work, some great partnering with United Counseling Service. And Erin, I like hearing about all the times that you've been out there doing what you do very well. And
Thank you.
we are proud to have this be a partnership that we hope to continue into the years to come. And you know, welcome to your position, Joe. A great way to throw you in here. But you did great, and I appreciate you coming on. And ladies, Elizabeth, I've interviewed you many times, so thank you. And Erin, thank you so much.
Thank
You
you
did
for having
great.
me.
Yeah, thank you.
And guys, that's another edition of BROC Talk Bennington. Thanks for joining us.